Mataji.
Chapter 10, Text 6. Maharsyah sapta purve chatvaro manavastata madbhava manasa jata esam loka imah praja. The 7 great sages and before them the 4 other great sages and the manus come from me, born from my mind, and all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. Text. Shall I read, Prabhu? Text 7?
Yes.
Text 7. Etam vibhutim yogam cha mamayo veti tattvataha so vikalpena yogena yujyate natra samsayaha. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this there is no doubt.
Next.
Text 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mataha sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. All right. So we will go back to last week's verses just to recap a little bit. So here, the last verse from last week, Krishna gives intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. Right? So as we mentioned in chapter 10, Krishna is giving us a glimpse of his opulence. And why is he doing that? Does anybody remember? Why is Krishna dedicating the whole chapter to talking about his glories?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
he considered Arjuna as his friend, and just because he considered him as his friend, he's revealing his innermost aspects.
Right. And what is the purpose behind revealing it? Somebody else can answer that. Maybe Akshat Prabhu?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Somebody else wants to try? Indranath? Why is Krishna sharing his glories? What's the purpose? I'll give you a hint. The purpose is hidden in the last verse of chapter 9.
Prabhuji, to make everyone understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yes, you're not wrong, but there is a more direct connection here. Very good, Shubhamay. So that we can remember him when we drink water and other things as well. Yes, thank you, Indranath. You're not wrong, you're right, but I was asked for a specific thing. So Krishna is giving us tools, a toolbox to remember him at various aspects of our day, our life, and everything else. So that's why he's talking about his glories. So everything of these little things can remind us. So when we think of intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt, confidence. Freedom from doubt means what? Confidence, right? Forgiveness. So these qualities, Krishna is like created by me. So we can appreciate, somebody has very charitable nature. We're like, oh, this quality is created by Krishna, right? So similarly, Krishna is now talking about in the next verse that the 7 great sages, Saptarishis, And before them, the 4 great sages and the Manus, progenitor of mankind, sorry, not proprietor, progenitor of mankind, come from me, born from my mind. And all the living beings populating the various planets descend from them. So he's basically saying, I'm the source of all sources, right? And like Indranath said, establishing that he is God. Then the next verse, Krishna is stating, one who's factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mine engages in unalloyed devotional service of there is no doubt. So one who understands Krishna as God, there is no more doubt who to worship, right? People who have doubts like maybe this is God, maybe that is God. But when you are completely convinced of Krishna's glories, you're like, this is God, that's it, right? So the word unalloyed, I'll tell you a story behind it. So when Srila Prabhupada, he landed in Boston, he raised to America and he landed in Boston. As he turned, there was a little factory that says something of the sort, unalloyed something company. So it was a metal company. And Srila Prabhupada liked that word, unalloyed. And later on, he used that word many times. And when he became successful in spreading Krishna consciousness, when he came back to Boston, he actually took some of his core devotees to that particular metal factory and he showed the word unalloyed. It's like, that's where I got inspiration. Because in Sanskrit, the word is basically without any milawat, as they say, without any thing that you connect. So unalloyed means that which is completely pure devotional service. So another way of saying it is unalloyed devotional service. That means there is no traces of karma, gyan, ashtanga or anything. It's pure bhakti, right? So unalloyed devotional service means that which does not have any other impurities. It is pure. So Krishna is saying, one who understands this opulence of mine and my mystic power, for them, there is, they engage in my unalloyed devotional service. There is no doubt of that. And then he says, and now here onwards, chapter 10, text 8 onwards, the next 4 verses are called Chatur Shloki. And now you have to understand, in the Vedic literature, the main Puranas and the main Smritis and books, they all have Chatur Shlokis, which means these are the 4 shlokas that make these literatures, give it the theme and the foundation on which they stand. Like Srimad Bhagavatam has Chatur Shloki. And the main shloka there is Etyam Kalopumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, right? That of all the avatars and everything, they're all avatars, expansions of Krishna, or God, but Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam. And the whole Bhagavatam is based on the fact that Krishna is God, right? He's the original personality of Godhead, supreme personality of Godhead, right? So in Bhagavad Gita also, there are Chatur Shlokis, and it starts with chapter 10, text number 8. And it starts with Aham Sarvasya Prabhaho Matta Sarva Pravartate, which means Aham Sarvasya Prabhaho. Everything emanates from me. I'm the source of all source.
Exhaust पे चला दे, सारे घर में धुआं हो रहा है.
All right. Anyway. So okay, you know what? I'm going to just make sure that this doesn't happen. So I'm going to temporarily take away your unmuting capacity. How do I do that? Or forget it. I'm hoping this won't happen again. All right, so chapter 10, text 8. Aham sarvasya pravaho matta sarva pravartate. So I am the source of all spiritual and material things. Everything emanates from me. So there is 2 things in our world. Either it can be categorized as spiritual, like the soul, like the deity, like prasadam, or it is material. Everything we can touch, feel, see. Or not, like the mind and intelligence, right? And Krishna is saying everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this, engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Buddha bhava samanvitaha. So Krishna, again, because he's sharing his heart, you see the word heart he uses here. And if you see even chapter 9 also, when he was saying, Patram pushpam phalam toyam, what you can offer me. He said, offered with love, offered with heart. So the word heart, you'll see it keeps coming back, because that's what Krishna is after. He's not after our money. He's not after our whatever. He's after our hearts. Are we giving our hearts to Krishna? So he's saying that one who understands this fact that everything emanates from me, such a person worships me with all their heart. So when we're chanting, Krishna expects that we worship, we chant with all our heart. What does that mean? That means focus with love, with devotion. Okay. So here Srila Prabhupada gives multiple shlokas where he says, basically this is not the first time this is being spoken. So even in Brahma Samhita, if we see the definition of God when it's given by Lord Brahma himself, he is very clear that Krishna is the source of Sarva Karana Karanam. He's a cause of all causes. He's a source of all sources. And that source is Govindamati Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. He is the personality of God. He is Govinda. Right? So Srila Prabhupada is using other verses also where this has been mentioned. The son of Devaki, Krishna, is a supreme personality of Godhead. It is said in Devaki in Narayana Upanishad 4. So one might say, okay, this is in Smritis, but what about the Shrutis? What about the Upanishads? Right? Do they also mention? So yes, the Upanishads also mention that. Then it says, in the beginning of the creation, there was only the supreme personality, Narayana, and no Brahma, no Shiva, no water, no fire, no moon, no heaven, no earth, no star, no sky. Maha Upanishad 1.2. So people who have issues with, what about Lord Shiva? What about, Lord Brahma? What about the Trimurti and all that, right? Again, being clarified by Upanishads. In the Maha Upanishad, it is also stated that Lord Shiva was born from the forehead of the Supreme Lord. Thus, the Vedas say that it is the Supreme Lord, the creator of Brahma and Shiva, who is to be worshipped. Very controversial. It can lead to people killing each other, which has happened in our history, where Shivites and Vaishnavites have had fights and whatnot. The point is not to get there, but the point is to establish the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So like that, you can read the purports. There are various other things mentioned about the supremacy of the personality of Godhead from various scriptures. So it is not a like one-sided knowledge. It is from all aspects of Vedas that point to one conclusion, that Lord Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead. Okay, now moving on to text 9. Mat chitta mat gata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So first, he talks about himself, that I am the source of all sources, cause of all causes. Then he goes to describe his devotees, and he says, the thoughts of me. So devotees are always thinking of me, and they're sharing this knowledge. They're conversing about me. And by doing so, tushyanticha ramanticha. They're feeling satisfied and they're feeling ecstatic, right? That's how devotees experience joy. Just like you will see if you open the TV, there is all these TV shows that talk about the gossip about celebrities and politicians. And that's how the common materialistic people derive happiness, by gossiping about people who are stars and celebrities. Very similar concept, but spiritually attuned, is the devotees, they gossip and they talk about and they glorify about Krishna. So when Krishna comes back from herding the cows, the gopas go home and they start talking about how wonderful is Krishna and how he did this miracle and that miracle and how he killed that demon and how with his flute he called the cows and this and that, and how this cow did this and this calf did that and whatnot, what Krishna had for dinner, lunch, this, that. All kinds of conversations are happening about Krishna. And gopis who are with Krishna throughout the night, Throughout the day, they're talking about, oh, what happened, how Krishna danced with her, and how Krishna did this, and how Krishna smiled, and how Krishna's garland smelled, and how Krishna's earrings are so beautiful, and how whatever enchanting and this, that, right? So they're constantly gossiping about Krishna. The gopis are gossiping during the day about what happened at night, and the gopas are gossiping during the night what happened during the day. And that's what devotees do. And when devotee friends get together, one of the things that people like to share is, please share your realization. It's like, oh, I had this amazing realization, and the other friend says, oh, did too, or you know what, this is that, and both their realizations amplify, and their friendships becomes closer and tighter, right? That's one way to enhance devotee relationships, is by sharing one's understanding of Krishna and one's appreciation for the personality of Godhead, and thereby each other's appreciation grows and each other's love for each other grows, because Krishna is the center of the relationship, right? So as a result, so it's like described when you throw a pebble in a pond, what do we see? We see ripples, right? If we throw 2 pebbles in the pond, there will be 2 centers with colliding ripples that collide with each other. I don't know if you have seen this, but if you see a pond, it's there. In physics, they taught us this wave stuff, right? So if there are 2 stones you throw in a pond, 2 centers, and their ripples collide with each other. But if you throw stones in the same center, then guess what? The ripples multiply, because there's more impact. The ripples multiply, and there is no collision. So similarly, when Krishna is in the center of discussion, of conversation, of service, of appreciation, and everything else, then the relationship doesn't have conflicts. It actually amplifies, right? And that's why those who have been in devotee relationships for long enough agree to the fact that devotee relationships are closer than blood relationships, because blood relationships tend to be materialistic. They're because I'm so and so and so and so family, but spiritual relationships, soul relationships, are built based on Krishna consciousness, which is far deeper, because it's spiritual. It's connected to the soul connected with another soul, versus the body connected with another body, right? Now, it's not true that you cannot have spiritual relationship with blood relations. That is the ideal thing, where you have blood relationships, brother, parents, kids, where more than the blood relationship, it is the soul to soul relationship, spiritual relationship, right? And that happens when the relationship is based in the mode of service, to Krishna. That means, let me, help you in your movement towards Krishna. And the other person is also thinking, let me help you in your movement towards Krishna. Let me enhance your service. Let me enhance your service. Let me make sure your service is glorified, right? And like that, both parties are trying to help each other move towards Krishna, as spouses, as siblings, as friends, as parents, as children, etc. And thereby, the relationship deepens far beyond blood relationship, and it becomes spiritual relationship, which is not just a relationship of this life, but these relationships actually continue to future lives also, in fact, in the spiritual world also. That's how it works. So it's far deeper. And that happens when we have this kind of appreciation or nature of glorifying Krishna. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. The pure devotees basically are always thinking of Krishna. Prabhupada says pure devotees, whose characteristics are mentioned here, engage themselves fully in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Their minds cannot be diverted from the lotus feet of Krishna, right? So in our case, we have to think, how to think of Krishna. Oh God, I have to think of Krishna. I have not thought of Krishna all day. Pure devotees are like, how to think of anything else? Constantly I'm thinking of Krishna. And it's like, Krishna, can you please give me some solace so I can think of some other things and get things done? So that's the difference. So it's an addiction in one sense. Just like when a boy and a girl falls in love, initially. They can't think of anything but themselves, or rather each other, not themselves, each other. So similarly, it's like when you're in love with Krishna, you're always thinking of Krishna, and everything reminds you of Krishna. So Krishna is saying, the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another, conversing about me. I remember one time me and my best friend, Ishodanandana, we were driving to this place called Gitanagari, which is close to New York. It's a farm community Srila Prabhupada started. And so it's a 10-hour drive. Generally, it's a 14-hour drive, but when I drive, I drive like a mad person. So we reach in 10 and a half hours or so. So, I don't drive in India, by the way. I would die if I drive it. So, but anyway, so this was like, I decided, okay, 5 hours I'll drive, 5 hours Ishodanandana will drive. And we started discussing Jagannath pastimes. And I tell you, I don't know when we reached Gitanagari, and I was driving the whole time. And we were just talking, even he didn't realize, and I didn't realize, we didn't have a bathroom break. We didn't eat anything. We were just talking about Lord Jagannath. And there was no concept of time, and thank God the roads were empty. But there was a concept of time, and somehow we just reached Gitanagari, and it was great. So that's the beauty of it. Friendships become such relishable when there is similar thought process and similar level of Krishna consciousness. In fact, even going to holy dhams like Vrindavan and Mayapur, you will notice when you go with a like-minded devotee, it's so relishable. Versus you go with not so like-minded devotees or anybody, it becomes a different experience, especially if you don't know anything about these places and you go alone, or you go with people who don't know much about these places. It just becomes like another place. But when you go with the like-minded devotee, what happens is suddenly the place becomes life, and you can actually see like, whoa, this is where Krishna would stand and call the cows. Oh, this is where Radha and Krishna would meet, chup chupke. Or this is the place where the Rasa Leela happens. Oh, wow, right? So the sharing of realizations, is what creates that experience. So it is, Prabhupada said, you can't, you can see with your eyes, but when you go to a holy place, you see with your ears. Because only when you hear, like I went to this place in UP, it's not some place, I forget exactly what it's called, but there's a stone on which there's a mark of a mukut or a crown, right? And when I saw it, it was so remarkable. The marking was so remarkable, and there's no temple or anything. Locals don't even know about it. Only devotees know about this place. So it was a place where Balaram was hidingly watching Krishna's Rasa Leela. And as he was watching, he got into ecstasy, and his mukut fell and made a mark on that stone, right? And the place was so serene, and it was so nice to share that with, again, like-minded devotees versus somebody who doesn't have that much faith, who would probably say like, oh, something, right? So glorifying Krishna actually enhances our bonding with each other, and it allows us to experience Krishna consciousness at a whole different level. And that is something we should practice, and find friends within Krishna consciousness who we can have similar kind of appreciation in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Okay, I'm going to go to the next verse. 10:10. Very merciful verse. Those who are constantly, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam apayantite. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Many times people say, oh, we know about God, but what about those people who don't know, right? People who are, let's say, cave dwellers, or in other countries, or aborigines, tribals, etc. Krishna is guaranteeing here, dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. If you're looking for me, tesham satata yuktanam bhajadam pritipurvakam. Bhajadam pritipurvakam. Again, love, heart, right? Krishna is looking for that only. If you are lovingly looking for Krishna, seeking Krishna, And honestly speaking, this is actually the story of my life. I was looking for God, not Krishna. I was looking for God. Like somebody says Kali is God. Somebody says Durga is God. Somebody says Shiva is God. Somebody says Sai Baba is God. Somebody says some, stone is God. I don't know. I don't know who to believe. And I was never the kind of person who would take it for granted. Like, acha, fine, some Dariwala has told me, so it must be true. Because, that's not who I am. So from childhood days, like even when I was 5 years old, I was meditating, I was, reading books, I was seeking answers, couldn't find it. I was in Ramakrishna mission, I was in this place and that place, and it was never satisfying until I met my mentor and the Bhagavad Gita had the answers exactly. And in the meeting of my mentor, that was exactly this. Like, I remember when I went to high school, there was this Gauriya Math, this temple of Radha and Krishna. And I would see the temple every day, and somehow it was always locked up when my classes got over. And when I came to school also, it was always locked up. So I never got to go to that temple. But I had this attraction that I wanted to see Radha and Krishna. Somehow I ended up in America. Somehow got this email that there is this seminar happening on my campus, and ended up going there, meeting my mentor, and everything changed from there. So it was very true for me. I was sincerely seeking God, and I wanted to know truthfully who is God. And somehow or other, through all this journey, at the age of 17 or so, I met my mentor and I found Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita, and the answers were as clear as daylight. And thank God for my amazing teacher who made it simple for my tiny brain to understand it. Right. So, another example. I have, some of you know, some of you don't know. There was this. There's so many. There was this devotee from Chicago, actually, Trinakarta Prabhu. He told me how he found Krishna. So he was looking for God. Same way he was kind of searching Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, reading all these books. One day he drove to a forest in Illinois, and he had a dog with him, and the dog went and found a book and brought that book to him. And the book was Krishna book, half torn by the dog, but he still read through it. And he was like, this must be from the aliens, right? And one day, one of his atheist friends got him the same Krishna book, not torn by the dog, that said, hey, it's not from the aliens. There are actually these people in Evanston who have the Hare Krishna temple, and here is the address. And that's how Srinakarta Prabhu joined the movement and never left. And so again, somebody was seeking it, found it. And there are so many, I can tell you like hundreds of stories where devotees were seeking it. Somehow they found a book. There was this cab driver. Was it a cab driver? Yeah, this cab driver, somebody gave him this book, Bhagavad Gita, or I think Journey of Self-Discovery, one of these. And the cab driver kept that book on the back of his car, behind the back seats, for a very long time, because he didn't know what to do with it. He didn't want to read it. Someday some passenger came up and said, can I read this book? Read the book, and instead of going to whatever direction he was going, he said, can you take me to the local Hare Krishna temple? And he became a devotee, right? So you never know how these books are like time bombs, right? And somebody's looking for Krishna, and Krishna is here. Take this. So, dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. So Krishna gives the intelligence by which one can reach Krishna. Krishna sends devotees by which one can reach Krishna. Krishna sends books by which one can reach Krishna. And with today, with the internet and YouTube channel and everything else, it's become even more easier for people who are seeking Krishna consciousness to come to Krishna. That's why I do these webinars where I use Facebook's advertising, to use Facebook's artificial intelligence to target seekers who are seeking Krishna, seeking God or spirituality, to bring them to these webinars. And if they are open-minded, they can study the Bhagavad Gita, right? That's the goal, because Krishna is promising in the Bhagavad Gita, but we have to make that promise come true. And it's our duty that we are learning Krishna consciousness, and those who are seeking it sincerely, priti purvakam, with love, Krishna, God, I want to know you, right? We have to reach out and find them and give them the knowledge as it is, without duplicity, without changing it, without seeking money, fame, recognition, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam, va jagadish kama. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, I'm not seeking wealth, I'm not seeking followers, I'm not seeking beautiful women. That's not what I'm here. I just want to be a servant, right? Ahaitukitvai, without unconditionally, no unalloyed, right? Ahaituki is unalloyed. So unalloyed devotional service. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I just want to be your servant, birth after birth. That's all. I don't want all this name, fame, following, money, this, that. Now, if it comes, that's great, right? It will come because Krishna is always competing with his devotee. Devotee is trying to glorify Krishna, Krishna is trying to glorify his devotee. So there's a transcendental competition going on between the two. So name, fame, glory will automatically come as one preaches Krishna consciousness. Having said that, the devotee doesn't aspire for it. The moment you aspire for it, immediately from purity, it becomes colored, right? There is impurities. Now with that impurity, when you speak Krishna consciousness, that impurity is projected on the consciousness of those who are listening to you. So you're doing a disservice to people by giving them that polluted consciousness of, I want money, I want name, I want fame, I want this, I want that, right? You'll see very simple devotees like in Mayapur, Jananivas Prabhu has been a head pujari. He's a head pujari of entire ISKCON. He's been head pujari for the last 50 years. His brother and him, his brother recently passed away due to COVID. And Jananivas Prabhu, when he speaks in a lecture, he's not a very eloquent speaker as somebody would be like telling stories and sound effects and this, that. He even like within 2 words, there is like 5 seconds delay, But when he speaks, it's so pure. That little short lecture, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and it moves the heart, it makes a deep impact because of his purity. So to share Krishna's glories, it is not required one has to be super eloquent, super good looking, super perfect tilak and perfect dhoti kurta and all that. It's not the exteriors that matter, it's the purity of the heart. Is your intention to glorify Krishna, or is your intention dhanam, janam, sundarim, followers and all of that stuff, right? And accordingly you get, and you attract those kinds of seekers also. Like the Sai Babas of the world, they also attract thousands of seekers, right? And devotees, pure devotees also attract thousands of seekers. But what they're seeking, there's a difference. Somebody is seeking more money, more this, more that, and somebody is seeking Krishna. I want to know you. I want to serve you. And yes, by the way, I need more money. I need a lifestyle. I need a good education. I need the other things also. But primarily, I love you and I want to know how to love you, how to serve you. So there's a difference, right? All right. So these verses are very, very powerful. So this, starts with Krishna himself. Then he talks about his pure devotees, how they enjoy glorifying Krishna. And then he talks about those who have not yet come to the fold of devotion, right? The seekers who are looking for Krishna. Krishna is saying, don't worry, I'll give you the intelligence. I'll send you the means through which you can know me and you can come to me. Then 10:11, Tesham evanu kampartham aham ajnana jam tamaha nashyami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhashvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Right? So those who are seeking Krishna with priti, with love, not only he dadami buddhi yogam, not only he gives intelligence, but because he is in the heart as super soul, he's saying, I destroy the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of knowledge. Om ajnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya. Right? Destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So where is that knowledge coming from? That is the knowledge of realization, where Krishna gives realizations. I'll give an example. The different devotees are different. Some devotees are very, very Sanskritaholic, right? They're very good with Sanskrit. They're very good with shlokas. They'll do a shlokarama with you, right? Every sentence is a shloka. You're like, what is he speaking? My God. I'm not one of those people. I hardly know any. But there are people who are very into scriptures. And you get like, wow, okay, they know a lot. And then there are devotees who are very simple, who don't know any Sanskrit or don't know much, but they have amazing realizations, nevertheless. So there is one Mataji, one lady who is a pujari in the Chicago temple. And she's like that. She doesn't, she doesn't understand the intricacies of a lot of the spiritual complications. But whenever she speaks or she gives some simple talk, she'll speak in Hindi. She's from UP, from a small town, not highly educated, but not uneducated either. But the realizations she shares, you can always find the equivalent in the scriptures. Although she might not have read these books in and out, but some of those realizations tally with what is given in the scriptures. Because she's so devoted, automatically, because the knowledge is already there within the heart, right? It's called revealed knowledge. Why? Because it is there within the heart. By churning the nectar, by reading these books, hearing from a devotee, practicing Krishna consciousness, that knowledge that is within the heart is coming out. That's called revealed knowledge. It is already there. So Super Soul brings it out as we churn it. Just like if you look at a pond has clean water. But then when you take a stick and you poke it, today we give 2 pond examples. You poke it and you move it around, all the dirt from the bottom comes up and it becomes muddy water. I have not done that. I don't know, but I've heard from scriptures. And if it rains, apparently, it all settles down at the bottom. So the point is that it's there, the dirt is there within the pond, but it is hidden. It comes out when you churn it. Like the milk ocean, right? The milk ocean, they churn the milk ocean and comes out Lakshmi Devi, comes out Amrit, comes out all these wonderful things from the milk ocean, right? But it was there within the milk ocean. So similarly, when you churn our hearts with Krishna Bhakti, which is already hidden inside, it comes out. So if we understand this, we understand it's not hard to make people devotees, because by default, everybody is a devotee of Krishna. By contamination and connection with materialistic tendencies and bad karma, people are slightly, there's a layer of contamination over the pure devotion. All we got to do is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, clean the mirror of the heart, and boom, pure devotion comes out. Sometimes that cleaning takes a little time. Sometimes it's very fast, depending on the intensity. But intensity of the devotee giving it and the intensity of the devotee opening up the heart to receive that. So both have to be there. Somebody might give Krishna consciousness, the other person might say, sorry, not interested. Versus somebody's like, hey, I'm eager to receive the mercy. So if both, there's a potent giver and a fertile receiver, then there is revelation of Krishna consciousness within the hearts. I'll pause and kind of see if there are any questions so far. Darshana Mataji is saying, I also was introduced to Krishna consciousness through a book. Till then, I used to visit ISKCON sometimes without consciousness. One day, my classmate in college was reading Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers by Srila Prabhupada, and I was intrigued and asked her to lend me the book. I read the book and it became my favorite book. It's amazing how it works. Okay, any questions? Or anything you want to share, anything you want to reflect upon based on the Chatushloki verses?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, I have a question. So let us say, you do some charity, service of Krishna, right? And there are people who actually do charity.
They're not the same thing, just so you know. They're not the same category, doing charity and service to Krishna. Unless you're doing charity in Krishna consciousness.
Yes, yes, that's what I meant. And there are people who actually, do charity for the sake of doing it. And when you talk about it to others, or even if it's one person, does it actually lose its value?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
If you're bragging about it, it's pride, and somehow Krishna will help you fix it. Right, this way or that way. But it's okay. It's not purest thing. Let's put it this way. If you were a pure devotee, you would not be talking about it. Do you know how much charity I gave this month? Right? But hey, somebody's made a donation and they want to talk about it. What's the problem with it? It's fine. At our stage, it is fine.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Jana Prabhu, you have something?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Prabhuji, I just want to share one small simple thing. So like 13, 15 years ago, I was in great pain. And I used to write small poetry. So once something came in my heart, like, give me the courage to follow what's true. Give me the path that leads to you. And that was a deep prayer in the heart. And then I think within one day, I opened the internet and somehow I came to asitis.com, the Bhagavad Gita. And it was just like mechanically robots, like I was just came across that. And then after that, it was a long journey. My depression went away after Gita. But, I vividly, that point of time, I felt as if I'm just seeking God and God presented Bhagavad Gita to me on the internet, kind of. And I think it happened because of devotee association, whom I was not even aware of. There were devotees around me, which I was not even aware of. So that's my realization so far. And I just hope that ink.
Nice. That's ecstatic. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. Anybody else wants to share something or ask something? Aman, good to see you. Long time. Yes, Yogesh Prabhu, go ahead.
Back in 2019, I met Harish Prabhu in Chicago. In Michigan. So, that was the first and last time I received something as a gift. A book as a gift. And that book happened to be the Bhagavad Gita, and I was so ecstatic because I was actually looking for it for a very long time and I hadn't received it. So he gifted it to me, and I have kept it at my altar for a very long time. And one fine day, all of a sudden, I was like, Harish Prabhu, do you know of anyone who can actually help me understand the Bhagavad Gita? I asked him twice, thrice, and he introduced me to you, and that's how it all started.
Nice. Wonderful. And it's always a pleasure to see you, Prabhu. Always, you have such nice questions and realizations. Cool. If there are no questions, then we'll keep moving forward. If there are any questions, feel free to ask now. I'll wait for 3 seconds. Okay, we'll move on to the next verse. Mataji, do you want to read? Or somebody wants to read? 10, 12,
Yes.
13?
Yes, Prabhuji, 12 to 13. Arjuna uvacha param brahma param dama pavitram paramam bhavan purusham shashwatam divyam adidevam ajam vibhum ahustvam tasya sarve devarshir naradastata asito devalo vyasa swayam chaiva bhavisi me. Arjuna said, "You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You are the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa confirm this truth about you. And now you yourself are declaring it to me."
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So just like when we do a scientific journal or we do a pitch deck or somewhere we are quoting facts, we do a little at the bottom, we put a reference, or we do a bibliography at the end where we say, okay, this is where this fact has come from. This is where the statistics has come from, right? So similarly, as Arjun, Krishna's friend, is saying all the wonderful things about Krishna, he's not referring it to out of emotion. It's not like a glorification or, it's like, oh, just because emotionally he's saying something. He's saying you're the supreme personality of Godhead, the ultimate abode, the purest, the absolute truth. You're the eternal, transcendental, original person, the unborn, the greatest. All the great sages, such as Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa, confirm this truth about you. And now you're declaring it to me. So he's referring to these great personalities, Asita, Devala, Narada, etc., as validation that they have already spoken this about you. They're already, scriptures written about you. There are already, established truth that who you are. And now you are yourself declaring it to me. Right? So it's a Vedic process of validation. When we speak the Vedic truth, right, it is important that we quote authorities. And authorities can be scriptures or personalities like these great sages. So when we say Krishna is the absolute truth, I always say Lord Brahma says it in Brahma Samhita. So I'm referring to the authority, Lord Brahma, and the authorized scriptures, Brahma Samhita. Or if I'm saying Padma Purana, I'm talking about an authorized scripture, right? So it is important that we speak from authority. That's the Vedic way of speaking. Otherwise, what happens is sentimentalism. Sentimentalism doesn't last very long. You will see people come to God and they cry and all that. But when it comes to dedicating their life, changing their lifestyle, that is not there. They'll come and say, my son, my daughter, please take care of them. They'll say, Sukha Sampati Ghar Aave, Kashta Mite Tanka, and all of that, right? Om Jai Jagadish Hare. But when it comes to changing lifestyle, the food habits, the worship habits, chanting, etc., the consciousness, not very interested. So sentimentalism is futile, but devotional sentiment is important as long as it goes with philosophy. So Srila Prabhupada says that the train runs on 2 tracks, right? So similarly for us, loving devotion or emotional, devotional sentiment and philosophy needs to go hand in hand. Only then we get true bhakti. Otherwise, if it is just philosophy, like I was saying, some people are very good with Sanskrit and they'll do all kinds of lectures where everything is like, oh, what, right? In those cases, what happens is it is dry speculation. It leads to dry speculation, a lot of philosophy, not too much heart. If it is only softy stuff, wishy-washy, softy this, that, oh, Krishna is playing the flute and this and that, Radharani is like this, then it becomes all Bollywood movie style, all sentimentalism, not much philosophy, so not much practice. It is devotional entertainment in one sense. So philosophy and devotional sentiment has to go hand in hand. One for the intellect, one for the heart. If that goes together, then everything in between is covered. Right? That's not from Disciplic Succession. I just came up with that. Sorry. Anyway, so that's why Arjuna is referring. What he's stating is not how a gunda talks about a politician, like, you're the best and you're this and you're that. He is speaking the facts about Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimate abode, purest, absolute truth, eternal, transcendental, original person. All of them are truths. And not only he is saying it, all these great personalities are saying it, and God himself is saying it. Now, here is a point to note. Bhagavad Gita is the only scripture in the world where God, first person, is speaking about himself and declaring himself. No other religion does that, right? Be very, very clear about this. No other religion does that. If you look at the Abrahamic faiths, whether it's Judaism, Islam, or Christianity, it is an angel or a messenger of God, whether it's Muhammad or Gabriel or whoever, is speaking about God. And that becomes the holy book. The Bhagavad Gita is a book where Krishna is speaking. I am. It's first person singular. And this is where he is speaking. This is chapter 10, where he really goes all out. He hints and multiple chapters, but chapter 10 is all about him speaking about himself, which is very, very amazing. He doesn't do that generally, right? He never does that. God never talks about, he's so humble, he never talks about himself, but here he is doing it, and it is, something very amazing. Lord Chaitanya did this. Lord Chaitanya would always put, his hands on his ears if anybody says you're God, you're Krishna. Don't tell me, because he doesn't want to be reminded. He's enjoying in the mood of a devotee. Doesn't want to be reminded he's God. But one time Lord Chaitanya got on Srivasangan's altar, on the Simhasan. He sat down and he said, worship me. And he revealed the identities of the Panchatattva, that this is Mahavishnu, this is Narad Muni, this is so and so, Radharani, etc., etc. And the devotees were in so much ecstasy, because Lord Chaitanya finally is not only acknowledging his Krishna, but he is revealing all their identities, spiritual identities, and he is accepting worship. The whole Navadvip Vasis, they got together, and there was a whole line from Srivasangan to the Ganga. Those who have gone to Mayapur know the distance. There's a whole line from Srivasangan to Ganga where devotees were passing buckets and buckets of water from Ganga to do Abhishek of Lord Chaitanya. So buckets as in like a ghara, what you call them, clay pots, right? And Lord Chaitanya, there's a little, I like to share this little token of the story. Lord Chaitanya was, obviously, he was accepting all the worship, but then far away there was this woman he could see who was not coming to Lord Chaitanya. She was filling the clay pots and handing it over to the devotees, so the devotees could do Abhishek of Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya's eye fell on her. And he said, who's that lady? And they said, her name is Dukhi. So Lord Chaitanya says, please tell her that from today, she is Sukhi. So that was, he was blessing her. So that's how it works. Servant of servant of servant of servant, right? And Lord's eye falls on the person who was at the lowest of the lowest rank. That's where he sees, because that's his merciful nature. He wants to see who's the most, humble, the most fallen. Let me help them out. Those are big deal personalities. They're okay, right? But one who's really struggling, who's really out there, they need to be taken care of. So like that in Ramanuja Sampradaya also, there was this personality named, who remembers the name? Is it Kuresh? Who was talking to Varadaraj Swami? So there's a beautiful deity of Varadaraj Swami, which is Lord Narayan, with his hand like this, which says Masuchaha, don't worry, right? And he is Varada, he gives blessings. So there was this devotee of Varadaraj Swami who was fanning him. That was his service. And this personality had this special benediction where he could speak to the Supreme Lord, have conversations. So every day they would have conversations. And devotees in that, I think Kanchipuram is where he is. Devotees knew about this. So one day, one person came to this devotee and said, will you please ask Varadaraj Swami if I will go back to Godhead? And he said, okay, I will ask the Supreme Lord. So did you find out, Yogesh Prabhu?
I'm searching, Prabhu. I do.
I think his name is Kuresh, if I remember correctly.
No, that is one of the.
Oh, okay, maybe not. So anyway, so this person asked Varadaraj Swami that will this devotee of yours go back to Godhead in this life? And the Lord said that, well, he wouldn't have, but because he is very dear to you, and you're very dear to me, so yes, he will go back to Godhead in this life itself. And so he told that devotee, and he was thinking to ask the Supreme Lord about himself. So he was hesitating to ask about himself. And the Lord said, ask, it's okay. You have something in your heart, why don't you ask? And he said, my Lord, when will I go back to Godhead? Will I also reach Vaikuntha? And the Lord says, well, you're fanning me directly. So you're already with me. Why do you have to come to Vaikuntha? You're anyway directly serving me. So he got the hint and he dropped the fan right there, right then, and he went away to serve another devotee who was, I think his name is Goshtipurna, if I remember correctly. So he went to serve another devotee who had a barn and had cows and everything. So he took the menial service of being a cow herder. And there he was serving very nicely, menially. And one day there was a nighttime, there was a storm. And so Goshtipurna had only 2 sets of clothing. So his clothes got drenched. So he brought in the cows to the barn. And there he was not wearing a upper cloth. So as his, master, if I may say so, who was given him the service, came with fresh cloth, he saw these symbols that the Ramanuja Sampradaya, when they initiate, they take hot stamps and they make symbols of Shankha Chakra like that. So he had these symbols and he said, "You are not an ordinary person, you're an initiated devotee. Who are you?" And he revealed himself. "This is who I am." And he said, "Oh my God, I should be worshiping you. I can't take service from you. Please don't put me through this embarrassment. I'm so sorry. For the last 6 months you're serving here, I didn't even know who you are. You're the great personality who speaks to the Varadara Swami. Please don't work here. I beg you. You go back to the Supreme Lord." Long story short, he didn't go back directly to the Supreme Lord. He went here and there, and finally, he went to Tirupati. He was fanning Tirupati. Tirupati said, "Please go to the Lord. He's, Varadara Swami wants to talk to you." He went to some other deities. They also said, "Please go. The Varadara Swami wants to talk to you. I'm okay. I have all my devotees taking care of me, but Varadara Swami misses you. Please go there." So finally, he went to Varadara Swami and said, "Okay, now you'll come back to me. Don't worry. don't leave fanning me. I like talking to you." Okay? So point is, Krishna is very much, that's his nature, and it doesn't, it's not a conflict. It's everywhere the same thing. So Arjuna is mentioning these qualities of the Supreme Lord, and the Supreme Lord is declaring himself as God in chapter 10. That makes chapter 10 extremely special and even more confidential than chapter 9, because Krishna doesn't do that very often, and he is doing it here. And I beg you, please don't miss these next few Philosophy Fridays, because we're going to hear some amazing points of remembrances that will allow us to always think of Krishna and never forget him. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.